Hello and welcome to Chapter 5. This chapter, we're going to discuss planning the foundation of successful management. This is a really great chapter to help you further delve into the practice of management and how you can be a successful manager and establish a great management team, foundation, structure, and presence within an organization. So let's go ahead and go into this chapter by discussing what you should be able to answer if I ever questioned you about this chapter. By the end of the chapter, you should be able to tell me what planning, strategy, and strategic management is, and it is not, and why they're important to you as a manager, why they should be important to you as a manager. The mission and vision statements, what they are, and what the three types of planning and goals entail, the three types of goals and the different kinds of plans, what are SMART goals and MBO and how they can be implemented, and how does planning and control cycles help keep you as a manager headed in the right direction. So, when you have to cope with uncertainty, you have to plan. And that's, you go about formulating future courses of action to reach specific results. And you set goals and decide how you want to achieve them. So if you want to take a road trip, you need a plan for it. You want to start a family, you need a plan for it. You want to buy a house, you need a plan for it. If you want to start a company, you need a plan for it. If you want to build that company, watch it grow, you need a plan for it. If you want to acquire an additional company in your expansion, you need to plan for it. If you want new customers, you want more customers, you need a plan for it. If you want to roll out new products and services, you need a plan for it. You have goals that you have, and you need to then create the plan in order to help you reach those goals. It's the roadmap to help you get there. Here's some roadmap tools. Your business plan is the document that actually outlines what your goals are, the strategy for achieving them, and the standards that you will use in order to measure the success of your goal attainment. The business model is going to outline what you need to fill, how you're going to operate the organization, the components and functions, as well as what you expect to bring in as revenues and what you expect to spend as an expense. Your strategy is that huge overarching plan. It's long term. It sets the direction for the organization. This is usually started at the top with your CEO and those closest to the CEO. It's going to represent your guess. It's an educated guess. It's a guesstimate about what must be done in order to reach those long-term goals and how you're going to survive any ups and downs, both internally and externally within the organization. It's going to also look at the prosperity of the organization or any kind of moving parts that can directly or indirectly impact the organization. And so that strategy could be 20 years, 50 years, 100 years. You can say we want to be the largest manufacturing of bicycles in the world. Then you have the strategic vision that you then roll out. From there, you have to manage that. And that's where you involve managers from throughout the organization, and you're going to formulate and implement various strategies and goals in order to help you reach that ultimate target goal. And you start off by establishing your mission and vision. And from there, you're going to assess where you currently are. What's the reality of where you really stand? And then come up with a grand strategy in various strategic, tactical, and operational plans. Strategic is the top of your organization, the heads of the organization. Tactical is rolled down to your mid-level managers, and operational or your frontline management team. And everyone's going to work together to create this big strategic plan. Then you have to implement the strategy and then maintain control by measuring where you are versus where you want to be and how well you are performing. So why is it important? It provides direction, momentum. Everyone knows where you're going. You can see where you're going. It creates an energy and zest. It encourages the creation of new ideas. It helps you also sustain a competitive advantage because you're constantly coming up with things. It's a breathing, living entity in itself, and so you're always trying to stay a step ahead of your competition. And so, with the encouragement of new ideas, Gary Hamel's a management scholar, and he said that Companies like Apple have been successful because they've been able to unleash the spirit of strategy innovation, which is the ability to reinvent the basis of competition within your existing industry. And so it's having these bold business models that put your others on the defensive. It puts your competition on the defensive. They're constantly trying to then counteract your move. It is a chess game unlike any, right? Because you are always reimagining the current situation. You're reimagining the future. You're thinking not just outside of the box. You reimagine the box. Why am I going to be in a box? We don't want to be in a box. We're going to be a circle. We're going to be an octagon, whatever, right? I'm not going to just be this square. We're just going to reimagine everything. And that's what innovation is all about. That's what strategy innovation is all about. That's why Apple is a leader within their industry. And so that is what you have to have in your own company in order to have a competitive advantage and to have longevity and sustainability. And so when we talk about making the plan, it's really simple. The mission statement says, what is our reason for being here? Why do we come into work every day? That's your mission statement. Why are we in business? That is your mission statement. It should be clear, concise, and every employee should be able to state, why are we in business? Your vision statement says, where do we want to go? What's our vision for the future? What do we want to become as a company? How do we want to impact the world as a company? Then our strategic planning is looked at. Like I said, it could be in the 1 to 5 years. It could be longer. You're looking at those goals. Those goals are breaking down to action plans. And then your tactical planning, right? Middle management for the next 6 to 24 months or so, about there. And that's broken down to goals and action plans. And then, like I said, your frontline managers, also called first line managers, are going to take that into an operational plan that's going to be broken down for the year on average. And then that's broken down into goals and action plans. And so you take these statements and it becomes the essence of who you are. It's gets you up early to get you into the workplace early. You're so moved by it, you stay late. You're going above and beyond because you are so committed to what you do and why you do it and where you see you and the company going. And so an example is Amazon. And of course, they are a very customer-oriented company, as I mentioned in the Chapter 3 lecture. And their vision is to be Earth's most customer-centric company, to build a place where people can come to find and discover anything they might want to buy online. You can buy almost anything on Amazon. Oh gosh. You want to start a family? Go on Amazon and type in family plan, and all of a sudden all these products and books and everything else is going to pop up, right? Patagonia is another company. They say we prefer the human scale to the corporate, vagabonding to tourism, and the quirky to the toned down and flattened out, right? So it's like this is what moves them. This is what motivates them. It's what motivates them. You can also look at nestfresh.com, N as in Nancy, E, S as in Sam, T as in Tom, fresh, all one word, .com. And then you do /ourstory.aspx and or just go to nestfresh.com and be able to find their story to see what their vision and mission statements are. Then there's 3 types of planning that are based on the 3 levels of management, and we talked about strategic planning. It could be the long-term goals in 1 to 5 years. Some go longer. Some people have even further strategic goals of 10 years or more. And then they outline what resources are needed in order to achieve those goals. And those are financial resources, human resources, and other. So Danny's participating with some of the other managers, and they have a discussion about the goals of the company and where they should be for the next 10 years. Is he participating in strategic, operational, tactical, planning, or controlling? You said A, you're correct, because he's looking at the long term, 10 years. That is strategic planning. Under tactical planning, you're usually working in departments or work units during the next 6 to 24 months in order to take that strategic plan and narrow it down to a tactical plan that can help you get to now a smaller chunk. So you know what you want to do for 10 years or 5 years, and now you're going to break it down into some smaller chunks. And then your frontline managers are going to take those smaller chunks and break them down and operationalize them. How can we now break down to now some specific tasks based on the resource that we have available in order to roll out this first phase over a year or two, right? Then we look at this in a different way, right? So you can see a visual. You have your CEO, president, VP, general managers, division heads, and they're going to work on a strategic plan. That's the long term. You have to look at environmental factors outside of the organization. You have to be future oriented, deal with uncertain conditions, highly competitive conditions. Middle managers are your functional managers, product line, department managers. They're focusing on a tactical plan, and they're going to implement the different policies and plans that top management has already set into play. They're going to supervise and coordinate those activities of the frontline managers, and they're going to make decisions about how often certain procedures are rolled out, and making sure that that the things are clearly defined, that procedures and information is disseminated and clearly defined. And then those frontline managers are your unit managers, team leaders, first line supervisors. They're going to work on the operational plan, and that's the day-to-day, right? They're the foot soldiers. They focus on the day-to-day. They focus on managing the task of your non-managerial personnel and coming up with various decisions to address day-to-day issues that arise. And although the decisions could be considered predictable, things happen that are not predicted. And so you have to make sure that you're following well-defined routine procedures and that there's great communication amongst all three levels. All three levels have to constantly communicate to make sure that whatever is happening on the operational frontline level, how that is impacting either the meter, where the scale is going closer to the strategic goal or further away from. And so all three levels need to communicate on a consistent basis in order to make that plan work. Then we, there we go. Sorry. Now, I mentioned goals, and those are what are our commitment? What are we going for? It's also could be considered an objective, and we have three major ones: strategic, tactical, and operational. Those are the overarching goals. And I've already discussed these, so you just have the words to reinforce it. Our action plan is going to help define our course of action that we need to achieve whatever the stated goal is. In my companies, we have a plan of action chart, and on there we have our strategic goals and our tactical goals, our operational goals. And so we do that plan of action now breaks them down into very digestible individual tasks based on whatever deadline we set and who is responsible for what. It's the course that we're going to use in order to reach our goals. Under an operating plan, it's designed for 1 year, and it helps you define how you're going to run your business based on your action plan. It identifies your targets such as revenue, cash flow, and market share. And you can see right here we have our standing and our single-use plans. Under our standing plan, we have our policy, procedures, and rules. And those are your activities that are going to be repeated over a period of time. They are just constantly cycling through. And so your policy is going to outline the general response to a specific question or problem or situation. Your procedure is the response to particular problems or circumstances. And the rule designates what the required action is supposed to be. So the policy is very overarching, right? The procedure is the process in which you'll do it, and the rule is here is the rules. This is what's going to happen. This is the required action. Under a single-use plan, those are for activities that are not likely to be repeated in the future. And under that, you'll have a program or a project, and that program will encompass a range of projects or activities, and then the project has less of a scope, less complexity than the program. It's much smaller. So keep going through here. Oops. SMART goals. It's really simple. Specific, measurable, attainable, results-oriented, target dates. Specific. Your goals should be stated in specific rather than vague terms. The goal that, for instance, as many planes as possible should arrive on time. That's too general. What do you mean as many planes as possible? Is that 50 planes? Is that 100 planes? Is that, what do you mean how many planes? So what it should state is that the goal is that we want 90% of planes should arrive within 50 minutes of the scheduled arrival time. That's specific. Now the entire team now realizes that of all the planes that come in, 90% of those planes need to arrive within 50 minutes of their scheduled arrival time. So if they're supposed to arrive at 9 o'clock, they have a 15-minute window. 90% of those planes need to do it. So that is very specific. Measurable. Whenever possible, goals should be measurable or quantifiable. You should be able to count it. It should be able to track it by numbers. So 90% should be able to arrive within 15 minutes. That is, there should be some way to measure the degree to which the goal has been reached. We have to be able to track it. So we keep track of how many planes come in and what time they come in. Then we can then see if we had 100 planes come in and 90 of those planes arrived within 15 minutes, then we've reached our goal, right? So those are measurable. Then we look at there's some goals like those that are concerned with improving quality. Those are not precisely quantifiable, so I'm just going to make sure that's clear. So in that case, something on the where you'd have to say improve the quality of customer relations by instituting 10 follow-up telephone calls every week. That right there allows you to be more quantifiable, because at that point, if you're tracking your calls to your customers and you know that, well, we looked and if you only did 2 calls, then you see that you definitely aren't improving your customer relations. But if you're seeing that there's 10 calls or more, then you can see that the quantity. So you can certainly quantify how many follow-up calls were made. Under attainable, those goals should be challenging, but they should also be realistic and attainable, right? Goals should be challenging. They should scare you. But you have to be realistic. You can't say, we want to be the company to whatever. Something just off the wall. The first company to make our customers invisible. Well, that's not realistic, and the likelihood of you attaining that is slim to none. So, that's not a good goal. It may be best to set goals that are quite ambitious to challenge you to meet high standards, but always making sure that they should be achievable within the scope of time and the resources that you have available. So you can't say that you want to do something within 5 years and you know that you don't have the resources to do it within 20. So you need to reset that and make sure that you look at figure 5.4 as it addresses that even more. And something else is that if your goal is too easy, like if you say that half of our flights should arrive on time, that's easy. That's not scary. That's not challenging. It won't impel. It won't compel. It won't inspire. It won't influence your team to make effort in order to reach that goal. But at the same token, if you set a goal that's just impossible, that 100% of our flights must arrive on time, regardless of weather conditions or any other external factors, that's not going to even happen. And that's what your employees are going to say, and they're going to roll their eyes. They're not going to even try to do that. Really? So the storm conditions, really? Okay, whatever. Okay, yeah, all right, good luck with that one. That's the attitude, and so you'll never reach that goal. But also, if they can also try to reach your impossible goal and keep failing. And what happens is that the more they fail, usually you then start to punish them. And the more they're punished, you start to really damper and beat up on the morale of the employees. Low morale is low well-being, which means high turnover. Now, when you look at results oriented, only a few goals should be chosen. Let's say 5, right? 4 to 5 for any work unit. That's a safe number. It's still challenging, but it's not overbearing. And when you look at them being results oriented, they should support what your vision is. So whatever your vision is for the company, those goals should support those. So when you're writing out your goals, you start with the word to, and then you follow it with an action-oriented verb like complete or acquire or increase or decrease. And so let's say you say that one of the goals is to decrease by 10% the time it takes for passengers to get in their seats before the plane departs. That is a results-oriented, action-oriented goal. Some verbs, however, should not be used in your goal statement because they can imply activities like the tactics used to accomplish the goals, such as having baggage handlers waiting. So like if you would say to develop, to conduct, or to implement, those are words that you should not use, right? They imply activities. And those are just verbs you shouldn't use. Target dates. Here's our last goal of the SMART goals. Those goals should specify the target dates or deadline dates when you want to achieve it. If there's not a date attached, it's not a goal, it's a dream. For me to say, I want to build my company and have offices in 5 major cities with at least 10 employees in each of those markets, but I don't say by 2020, then guess what? It's just a dream. It's not a goal. And what happens is that without having that goal attached, there's no ambition, there's no fear, there's no drive, there's no motivation to actually reach there. If you get there, great, whatever. But what happens is that you don't push yourself to get there. So it's like, there's an example. It's unrealistic to expect an airline to improve on its on-time arrivals by 10% overnight. It's not realistic. It's not realistic. But you could set a target date of 3 to 6 months away. And then by saying that, it gives your team time to keep working, to work out the kinks, to see how it is that they are faring with that. That is something that's achievable. There's a target date. You can see it. You can feel it. It's attainable. And it also allows your frontline managers and employees to revamp any systems, right? Because they're the foot soldiers. They're the ones that are having to operationalize everything. They got to revamp everything, revamp their work habits, and gives them a clear time frame in which they know that they're expected to perform. So if I know I have 6 months in order to achieve this on-time arrival, it gives us about 2 months to work on our work habits and systems, and then actually keep working on those consistently over the next 4 months to get it right. So that's what SMART goals are. And that should be not just in business environment, that should be in your personal life. Your personal goals should be specific, measurable, attainable, results-oriented, and have target dates. You want to buy a house, you better use SMART goals. Relationship between how difficult a goal is and how well you perform. And here's a chart from figure 5.4, as I mentioned earlier. And you're looking at your performance, and it's high or low based on the difficulty of the goal. If the goal is low as far as the challenge, then your performance can also be low. Moderate to challenging, you see it has a higher performance rate versus the impossible kind of thing. So it's looking all that. And under A is your committed individuals with adequate ability. B are your committed individuals who are working at capacity. And C are individuals who lack commitment to high goals. Right? They just do. MBO, or management by objectives, is a 4-step process where you have managers and employees that have some joint objectives for the employee. They work together to come up with these objectives, and The manager will develop the action plan, and then both the manager and employee will review the performance of the employee. And then the manager makes an appraisal and rewards the employee for achieving certain results. So it's a joint force between management and employees in order to reach goals and objectives. Table 5.2 can show you some of these objectives. And the purpose of an improvement objective is to be able to express performance that you'd like to have accomplished a certain way for a specific area or point of time. And personal development objective, the purpose is to express your personal goals that you'd like to see realized. And then maintenance objectives is to express your intention to maintain the performance levels or standards that you previously set. Then we can cascade some of these from the top down. And with that, top management has to be committed to the MBO, and it has to be applied across the organization, not in specific areas. And it has to cascade. Objectives are structured in a unified hierarchy and becoming more specific at lower levels of the organization. And so it has to be able to cascade. Like if you think about a waterfall and how it flows and how it cascades out and down, it's the same kind of effect. And so the objectives are structured where you then can really narrow down and really tune in to some specific areas and resources and tasks and things of that nature the further down you go. Because remember, at that front line, those are your foot soldiers. Those are the ones who are involved in that day-to-day interaction with customers and vendors and suppliers. So Melissa wants her employee Ralph to turn in his monthly sales report by the 5th of every month. By setting this, it meets which of the requirements of SMART goals? Is it specific, measurable, attainable, or a target date? If you said D, target date, you're correct. She wants it in by the 5th. Now, when we look at our planning control cycle, you make a plan, you carry it out, you control the direction of the plan by comparing how you're performing versus what the plan desires. Then you control it by taking any corrective actions. And so what that means, there's two different ways of doing that. If you have deviated from the plan, if the standard has been set and or stated and you're way left, you can correct that deviation, and then you can improve your future plans because you saw that how it just kept deviating consistently. Then you know that your future plans need to counter that in the so that you don't have that same occurrence later. Then this is just looking at it in a visual where you can see it this way. This is for those of you that need more visual clarity on that. So Apple fired some employees because they leaked some news about an unannounced product. What step in the planning control is this? Is this making a plan, carrying out the plan, taking corrective action, or documenting the plan? You said C, taking corrective action. You're correct. So, folks, that's the end of this Chapter 5 lecture. If you have any questions, please email me. I hope that you take great notes for this chapter and that you begin to implement some of this, the techniques and strategies and tips that are shared by the authors.